the President Cyril Ramaphosa giving the January 8 statement of the ANC and brand ANC front and center of that January 8 statement. Well, the opportunity now is given to us to talk to the President. Mr. President, thank you very much for your time. Let's start with the local government elections.
Yes.
Coming out of that, observers have been very clear, and some of them emphatic, that your leadership collective was significantly weakened. Let's look ahead, though, to 2024. Are you confident of an ANC victory? That's one. But second to that, equally important, are you the man to lead the party towards that victory?
Well, the local government elections that have just gone past were not a stellar performance by the ANC. We didn't put up our best foot forward. And there are quite a number of reasons for that. So we ourselves are disappointed with the performance that we put in, because we went down way below 50% for the first time ever. Are we confident about 2024? Of course we are. We are confident that we are going to emerge victorious, because we know what led to the bad performance in 2021. Apart from the fact that local government elections, usually people don't come out in their large numbers, we've often seen the participation of people is quite low. But we also know where we had missteps as the ANC. Service delivery was the key issue. We didn't perform well there, and we disappointed our people enormously when it comes to that. And so therefore, knowing the reasons that led to this decline, we are going to address that, and we are confident that we will be able to redress all that. We are capable of doing better, far better than what we have done, and we are going to do precisely that. As to the leadership of the ANC, it is not my decision. I'm not the decider of who should be the leader, myself or whoever. It is the membership of the African National Congress.
Should they approach?
If they approach who? Me?
If they approach you to say, as they've done here, throughout this build-up to the January 8th, they've said, Mr. President, we think you're leading this party very well. In fact, that message driven home by the chairperson of this province.
Well, that's what I hear. I'm hearing all these noises that are going on. And our conference is exactly 12 months away. So I hear these noises, and there may be contrary voices along the way. And what I am focused on is making sure that the objectives that we have set for ourselves, that we were given by the 53rd conference, are achieved. And the objectives that the NEC decided on and put in the January 8 statement are achieved. The other noises, I hear them, but I hear the biggest noise being renew the ANC, build compacts, make sure that you do not reverse the gains that we've made of democratic gains over the years, and all that. That is what is my primary focus.
I think it's fair, Mr. President, to say, if given the nod, you will say yes to this challenge for the second time. I'm not putting words in your mouth. You're welcome to respond to that.
Well, you said you're not putting words in my mouth, and I was about to applaud you for not putting words in my mouth.
Mr. President, in a year that's likely to be characterized by extreme divisions in the ANC, you have said, and you have pledged before members of the ANC, some at the stadium, some watching from home, that you are going to, or the ANC rather, will support the implementation of the recommendations of the Zondo report. How in the world do you plan to do this, Mr. President, in such a year?
Well, it's not even in such a year. The recommendations are out there already, and we are looking at them, both as the ANC, and I've invited the people of South Africa to engage with that report, The reason I released it is to do exactly that. Because it's not the president's report, it belongs to everyone. So I want everyone to have a bite at the report and look at it and debate it and engage with it. As for the African National Congress, we are going to look at it quite closely. In terms of supporting, yes, the recommendations, as well as looking at it from the perspective of informing and guiding our renewal process. Because we all accept that something went horribly wrong with state capture. And we all accept that a number of people who are associated with our party, not all of them, because some are not associated with the ANC, were involved. And so therefore, we now need to look at that and say, how does it inform our future actions? How does it inform what we do in the future with regard to renewal?
Yes.
How do we renew ourselves
Mr. President,
against this mirror that has been put on the wall for us to look at ourselves, which is the Zondo report?
Mr. President, let me put the question more succinctly.
Yes.
You are going to find resistance from those who are going to say this very issue of state capture should not have been done. I was forced into this, said your predecessor, and therefore you are going to find resistance. How do you plan to get around the resistance?
For starters, the 53rd conference of the African National Congress. Was it the 53rd or the 50th? It was the 54th. I keep saying 53rd. It was the 54th conference. Was the conference that called for the establishment of this commission. The conference said we want this commission to be established so that we can be better informed about what happened over the past few years. So that's for starters. The ANC supported this commission. Along the way, there were people who were opposed to either the continuation of this commission, and the ANC-NEC kept on saying, this commission was established at our instance, together with, of course, the insistence of a number of other organizations. So we support it, we continue to support it. The report has now come out, and we say, obviously we are going to look at the recommendations, and we want, as the ANC, to look at those recommendations to see how one impacts on some of our own, but also how it informs how we should charge ahead with our renewal process. Will there be resistance? Of course there will be resistance. Because there has also been resistance with some of the programs like renewal, rebuilding that we have embarked on. And we are a sort of a broad church. We are an organization that has all manner of people in it. But today, the National Executive Committee has decided that the renewal process we all agree on. We must move ahead with the renewal. So there is just no debate and no doubting, no manga about that. Everyone now agrees that our main mission and priority is renewal. So everyone is now proceeding. So that in itself is a major issue. Having faced quite a lot of resistance in the past, we now all agree that we are now continuing on the path of renewal. But we also say that it is going to be painful. It is going to be difficult. It is going to have stops and starts, because it is not a linear process. It is a process where we're dealing with an organization that's composed of people, composed of individuals, composed of people who may be implicated or whatever. So we will deal with those issues as they arise. But the determination by this organization is that we are determined to move ahead with rebuilding and renewal. And we are not turning back on that.
Yes. Mr. President, today, South Africans may possibly have interpreted you as becoming much more forceful, particularly on ill discipline in the party, and I really want to move away from the ANC because there are other matters I need to talk to you about. For the longest time, they've viewed you as someone who's overly consultative. And this raises a question about what you said today, that the democratic centralism, where if a higher structure takes a decision, the lower structure, its mandate, its duty, is to follow suit.
Yes.
Again, I put the question to you. Practically speaking, what are you going to do to those who are going to say no to the implementation of this report?
Democratic centralism means politically and organizationally and from a value-based point of view, once that top structure, whether it is right or wrong, takes that decision, we all have to follow suit. And if we don't follow suit, it basically means there must be consequences that have to flow through. So we are saying democratic centralism, which has always been like the ethos of the African National Congress. And because we are an organization, there have been ups and downs and stops and starts and reversals and diversions and all that. But what we are saying is that, as we did last year, saying we're drawing the line in the sand on issues of implementing the resolutions. And we did draw a line in the sand and started implementing, having faced quite a lot of resistance. And this is precisely how we are moving forward. So this process is gaining ground, and we are moving forward. That is why, I think, was it last night when I said to the business communities and others who support us, that join us in this process, support us in this, because it's an arduous task, it's an arduous journey. It's not going to stop, to start and stop today. It's a continuum.
Mr. President, I have the communications people of the ANC looking at me with strained eyes. Your responses are going to get me into trouble with time. Let's move on to the issue of security and stability. You spoke about it today, that there are going to be reforms. The question that some South Africans will be interested in is that in August last year, you decided to take the Ministry of State Security and place it under your watch, which is the presidency.
Yeah.
What informed that decision? Why was that necessary?
It became necessary because we wanted to have proper line of sight of this very important ministry. When you look around the world, many countries in the world, many countries don't have a ministry called state security. Issue of intelligence or the task of intelligence is there, but it reports to the president. So we sought to follow that type of process. When our democracy started, we had more or less the same, and then later that changed, and we are now saying part of the reform process is to look at intelligence more closely and to see how best we can restructure, because everyone agrees that we need a reform process which is going to also impact on intelligence, the police and defense and all that. So all that is going to be looked at under the rubric of reform. But when it comes to intelligence, we are pursuing and following exactly what happens in other countries. A number of people who have been in the intelligence world said that was the best decision. Other people have expressed some doubt, but we believe that we are on course as part of the reform process, to ensure that the intelligence services are well run.
Given what's happened in the country recently,
it's part of that whole process.
Would you say that it has worked, this particular process that you are undertaking? Would you say that it is working? Parliament has burned down, reportedly, in part because someone breached Parliament. You have the issues that happened last year, which you touched on today, the unrest.
Yes.
Has it worked, or is it proving itself to be working?
It's too early to say, because that has been a process. We only really did it just last year. And now, with this, all these things having happened, we're looking at all those very closely. And I believe that the reform process is going to enhance the security establishment in our country, and it's going to reposition it so that we are able to provide the safety that South Africans need and the safety that is guaranteed to them by the Constitution.
Mr. President, it would be, I wouldn't be doing my job if I said, yes, you're making these promises. However, you will correct me if I'm wrong, but the country does not have a permanent DG at State Security. It does not have a permanent head of the domestic intelligence. It doesn't have the foreign head of intelligence. Why should South Africans feel safe?
They should feel that we are addressing these issues, and in a short space of time, all that is going to be addressed and repositioned and finalized. So we've been following the due process of doing precisely that.
Mr. President, let's touch on the economy. And I want to go straight to the point on this one because of time constraints. Are we going to see another economic stimulus? Given where we are, some people are saying that there needs to be serious economic overhaul, particularly on the back of this pandemic.
In response to the pandemic, we did what many countries on our continent did not do, and we did what many other countries were not able to do. Up to almost 10% of our GDP was channeled towards addressing this pandemic. And in many ways, we have been able to address some of the very harsh impacts. But the harshest impact, of course, is the loss of 1.5 million jobs as a result of the pandemic. And this is precisely what the economic recovery plan is now having to deal with. And today we said what we now really need to do is proceed to build that compact between business, labor, community, and government. To panel beat, if you like, this compact into proper shape so that it is able to address some of the key challenges. What we do admit is that government cannot do it alone, nor can the private sector do it alone. And we highlight the fact that all of us have key responsibilities. We have key roles that we need to play. And that is precisely what we are now going to be working on as government together with our social partners. We've already built a very good foundation at the NEDLEC level. Arriving at the economic reconstruction and recovery plan means that, but we now need to consolidate and highlight and identify what everybody's task is.
So, Mr. President, no economic stimulus on the horizon?
We are going ahead to implement the economic recovery and reconstruction plan, and in doing so, we are going to work with all our social partners.
Since March 2020, Mr. President, the country has been operating under the national state of disaster. Any plans to lift that anytime soon?
We have said that we are now examining the efficacy of using other instruments, such as your health and a whole number of other instruments, to look at whether those regulations, whether those laws are now able to help us navigate our way through the continuation of this pandemic. Because this pandemic is going to be with us for a very long time. And we've asked ourselves about the efficacy of having the National Disaster Act being utilized as the instrument going forward, or utilizing another instrument or instruments which is health related or others. And where we are now, I think we are now better positioned to say we are dealing with a health pandemic that has a number of other consequences, social as well as economic. How best can we ease on the disaster component and see whether we resort more to health protocols, social instruments that we can use, economic instruments to take us forward. So that is a decision that is now going to have to be made.
Mr. President, as I taper down, fighting corruption is one of the key issues that you've touched on today. And one of the key recommendations of the Zondo Commission is the establishment of an anti-corruption agency. Does the establishment of this agency, if you agree that it is going to be established, does it need to wait for the delivery of the full report?
No, as I said when I delivered the report, there are a number of processes that we are going to get involved in government, some of which are already under discussion, which if we find are implementable or actioned on going forward can be done. But then again, it's not a long time to wait, because I have said we need to give a comprehensive response to the Zondo report. We couldn't do it with part 1 or part 2, part 3. We need to do it with the full agglomerated report. And soon after all the parts are in place, we will be able to come up with a very clear plan. And some of the processes may well be processes that we will say, this one has been underway, and it's a process that we believe is implementable now or as we move on and so forth.
Mr. President, part of that, part of implementing this report includes capacitating the National Prosecuting Authority. They've cried about personnel, but perhaps more urgent is money, because they're going to be fighting individuals who are well-resourced, including entities, by the way.
Yes, indeed. That is a challenge that I am alive to. The National Prosecuting Agency does need to be resourced, and they will be resourced.
How much?
It is a national task, because the resources, and I don't know what their resource need is right now, as you say, how much. I don't know what it is, but they are going to have to be resourced. Without any doubt, we will make sure that they are well-resourced, they have enough, sufficient money, as well as personnel, to be able to embark on this most important task of ensuring that we do, in the end, implement the Commission's report.
Mr. President, I will be eaten alive if I don't, and it's actually quite a serious one. The whistleblowers, the protection of whistleblowers, the rewarding of whistleblowers is such an important issue. You've had one killed last year.
Yeah.
Address this particular matter, Mr. President, and perhaps with even more vigor. I think many people want to know. The Zondo Commission says they must not only be given immunity for disclosing information that is clearly credible, but they also they must receive some financial reward as a result of their work.
Xoli, I don't want you to be eaten alive. I am able to say that the issue of whistleblowers is an important one. That is why I singled out their role when I was accepting the report and thanked them for the important role that they have played in bringing state capture to light. In some ways, we would not have had all the information that we have without the role that whistleblowers played. So therefore, they don't only need immunity, they need protection as well. They need to know that as they blow the whistle, they are not going to be hounded, and unfortunately, one of them was then killed. Those are matters that lie heavily on us as well as the government. We obviously do need to come up with a program, a process through which we give protection to whistleblowers, including a whole lot of other issues that the Commission may well have come up with. So these are matters that now need to be discussed. And when we do come out with a response on the Commission's report, it will include all these matters, because they are weighty matters, they are matters that need to be attended to, and we will attend to all those.
Mr. President, I'm completely out of time, and I've got some of the officials here literally standing on their feet. I must end the conversation with this particular one. I had a conversation recently with the Secretary of the Commission, Professor Musala, who said the country has gathered perhaps the biggest amount of information and data on corruption in the most systematic of manners that no country has ever done. The use of that information, Mr. President, what needs to be done to insulate the country from future corruption?
Well, that's precisely the reason why the Zondo Commission was established. It was established to say, we want to know what happened in the past. We want to know what we should do to prevent it from ever happening again in South Africa. So the information that has been gathered is such that it is going to arm us with what we need to do to prevent state capture from ever happening again. And also to ensure that the way it was organized, the very sophisticated manner in which some of these things happened, are actually never going to happen again. And if they do emerge, they are stopped in their tracks. So I think we are probably one of the very few, if not the only country that has gone through a process like this. It's like been very cathartic, but it's also been necessary, because the people of South Africa deserve clean government. They deserve the very best, because they fought for a freedom which must mean much more to them than just casting the vote. So we are going to be working very hard to ensure that that aspiration that they had is fulfilled.
Mr. President, I must thank you very much for your time. Perhaps to end it on a lighter note, is this what you expected when you took up the challenge to lead the ANC and the country? How's it going so far?
Yes, I knew it would be challenging, but it's been more than challenging. But executing the mandate one is given by one's organization is what one needs to focus on, which is exactly what I'm focusing on. So I am doing what my organization has mandated me to do, not lying back and doing nothing, but doing exactly what the ANC has said I should do.
Mr. President, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
That's the President of the African National Congress, and indeed the President of our country.